This season has thrown some tough tracks at the drivers to start things off. Unfortunately, the onslaught won't recede tonight with a short track up next in the lineup. Richmond is a circuit that has seen things go either way when it comes to craziness. Will tonight be back to business as usual, or will the drivers be left trying to manage the chaos? Let's find out soon as we get ready to watch round 4 of the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Chris Foby. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Richmond's lap length makes it stand out compared to the norm of most ovals here in the States. Let's head to our track guide to learn a little bit more about it.
Welcome to Richmond Raceway. Richmond is known as the action track, and it's real easy to see how. The unique D-shaped oval allows drivers to reach a lot of speed into Turn 1. Richmond has long been known as a short track that races like a super speedway. With its multiple racing grooves and a history of some beating and banging, Richmond is a fan favorite and driver favorite as well. The Little Virginia short track has 14 degrees of banking in the corners, with 8 degrees awaiting the drivers on the front stretch. No matter what vehicle you drive here at Richmond, tight in the center is usually what you end up fighting the most, based around the fact that drivers are carrying such high speeds into the corners each and every single lap. Now, the best drivers would be the ones that you can be seeing working the brake bias to adjust as the track temperature changes. If you find yourself racing in the baking Virginia sun, corner exit will be your worst enemy. When the sun comes up and brings those track temperatures with it, the grip level at Richmond absolutely plummets. Richmond has been around for quite a while, tracing its roots back to the beginnings of NASCAR. With a recent renovation, it's proud to be a NASCAR for quite some time, which isn't a bad thing if you ask me. This has been our guide to the Richmond Raceway. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Well, Chris, at 3/4 of a mile, it certainly sticks out. But what is that going to mean challenge-wise with these trucks tonight?
Well, there is a lot of time on the loud pedal for a short track here. These guys will be carrying a ton of speed around this track. And because of that, braking and throttle control are going to be really essential to nailing this track. This track is very throttle sensitive, so if you let off too early, you're going to kill your exit on the corner. But if you get on it too soon, you're going to shoot that truck around. And while it might be cool to do donuts, you don't want to do them during the race. You want to wait till victory lane afterwards.
Well, we'll hopefully see most everybody keep it pointed the right direction. Before we get to the racing itself, we want to remind you that today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
The PRL NASCAR Truck Series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets, supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. The championship, after 3 rounds, is sitting in an interesting position because it is Brennan Chatley up on the top step. And Daniel Ferguson, only 4 points back, is giving chase. But then Bradley Hawley, with his win last week, finally gets himself into the hunt. Now, look at 4th. 3 drivers are tied for that 4th position and only 20 points back from our championship leader, which is not that big of a gap, especially this early in the season. Thomas Sink, another 3 behind them, could obviously shake things up too. So there are still plenty that are in contention, and considering how wild it's been so far this season, I wouldn't be shocked if we had an unusual season throughout all 10 rounds. What about the team's championship so far, Chris?
Well, that Whataback Overdrive Racing team put in a tremendous week last race and remain at the top of the charts. But it is not a huge gap there, just 6 points with private label Team Hype in that second spot. And then just one more point back is Car Ramrod. So 3 teams all very much alive still in that championship fight. Then Whataback Back Row Racing on a bit of an island there in 4th with a almost 20-point gap back to Rescue Graphics in 5th.
For today's event in particular, as we mentioned, we are in round 4. It's 115 laps. The laps aren't very long around here, so they're going to be doing quite a few to try to get the required distance in. They also have no spare truck, which means if they get any sort of damage, they're going to have to come in and get that repaired. And part of what a short lap means also means you're not going to have a lot of time to bang away at it when we are under caution. It's a fixed setup, though, so you don't have to fiddle with anything there. You just hop into the truck, and then you're on your way. 24 incident limit, and if you hit those 24 X's, you are going to be disqualified on the spot. So while short track racing tends to encourage a lot of beating and banging, you don't want to do too much of it. Right now, we're waiting for the qualifying to kick off, and we've got, looks like about 2 more minutes before that happens. But I'm hoping the drivers have put enough one-lap practice in out here, Chris, because if we take a glance at the temperatures, I feel like that's going to be a talking point for much of today.
Yeah, believe it or not, 120 degrees track temperature has actually cooled off from when we first got into the session earlier. So it is definitely warm out there in Virginia today.
And typically this track sees nighttime racing, though, especially for major features. It's kind of surprising to see the trucks racing during the day, and that's maybe part of why you usually want this to be nighttime. Right now we're watching Brennan Chatley here, out once again, our championship leader, as he works his way down to the bottom. Actually, looks like maybe he's done with that hot lap. The 59 going to give us an onboard view for this afternoon. We'll have a number of them to go through once we get through the qualifying here a little bit later on. So definitely lots of great perspectives of our drivers. Some of them quite competitive out here today, willing to let us look inside what it's like from their sim rig. This is the 66 that we see on screen, Dominic Vigine, who has had a bit of an up and down one so far this season. Sits 8th on the timing sheets in the warm-up as he gets ready to try and wheel this out and get up to pace.
Yeah, Dominic's definitely been one of the feast or famine drivers this season. Sometimes he's running up there towards the front, and other times he's not having the most fun out there of all the drivers. So hopefully Dominic can get the luck dialed in a little bit and get back to victory lane.
It does look like it's a fairly large size field. We've got 33 drivers signed up currently. We've got time for more to jump in if they so desire. How do you think that's going to affect the racing, especially if we get long green flag runs? Could you foresee traffic being a serious problem?
Well, for the sake of whoever's leading, I hope it doesn't become a problem, because traffic on these short tracks can be an absolute nightmare. There's only so much room for these drivers to get out of the way without being a danger to themselves. So if traffic does play a role, it could definitely have a major consequence on the outcome of this race.
All right, session switches over to qualifying. Looks like a few drivers going to hop out on track early, including Patrick Cowgill, who's already out of the lane and on the apron through 1 and 2. There you see the 31 heading on to the backstretch. They only get 2 laps, remember, to try and get their quickest of those 2 in. So very important to keep the mistakes down as Patrick starts on his flyer now.
And remember, that is a really long straightaway. The D shape to this track makes that front stretch a really long ways down into turn 1. So you're carrying just so much speed off of there, and you mess up that entry into turn 1, and you can really give up your whole lap.
As he comes across the line at 22.653, is the first marker, and it's immediately beaten by Nick Hunter and Dalton Geyer as more drivers start to set their first time. Looks like Thomas Sink looking very competitive today in that 48 as his first lap is quite quick. We're waiting on guys like Bradley Holly to get one down as well. Our winner from last round. Ooh, Holly's first lap didn't count. He must have brushed the wall.
That's not too hard to do here either. I mean, you cook it a little bit out of turn 2, and that truck just wants to push right up at the wall. So that could be part of what Bradley's issue may have been on that first lap. But he definitely is getting close to the wall, and when you do that, sometimes you're playing with danger.
And that's his second lap. Is good enough for 4th place. Not too shabby. That'll at least get him up towards the front. As we glance at Bajin once again, his second lap right here, the 66 down the backstretch, chucking it into 3 and 4, having to try and watch so that he doesn't lose it, coming off that final corner, tail waggling just a little bit, and it's going to be 2 100 slower, so that's not going to raise him anywhere up the order.
See Nicholas Schwartz rocking the Jimmy Spencer throwback again this week.
He's had that, I think, for much of this season. It certainly is eye-catching. It's hard to avoid seeing him on track, if anything. Jim Westerfield down in 21st, now jumps himself up to 16th for that 22.4. Nicely done from him. What about Regan Jr.? This is his second time lap, and it is a 22.325. Very nicely done, but he's only a thousandth off of Bradley Holly, this longtime rival, and he'll stay in P6.
I do believe this is Regan's first appearance since he took victory a few weeks back.
I think you are right. I'll double check on that as Daniel Ferguson down in 4th brings it onto pit lane. He's already finished his 2 laps. Daniel Knight, oh, okay, this is interesting. Knight had the same issue as Bradley Holly. His first lap was not counted. The 17 is coming around for his second lap right now. Let's see if he can get one in. This is not going to be good if he has to start from the back at a track like this. And it's a 22.3. That will count, but that's only good enough for 11th for the ride-in shotgun car, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's definitely going to have some work to do once we get to race time.
Ferguson back around. He's already completed his 2 laps, so I think he's just practicing from here on in. Trying to see if we have anybody else that is able to complete a lap, and it does not look like anybody is going to be on course in time because we've only got about a minute to go, and Baron Hilton and Doyle Lawrence are the only 2 that have not put a time in. Hilton actually won't be allowed to, as he has been given an EOL penalty for the start of this race because of an incident back in Chicago. Otherwise, I'm not sure why we don't have Doyle Lawrence out there, and I'm double checking to see if he's in the session. Yes, he is. So Doyle just electing to try and start from the tail of the field, and maybe fancies his chances a little bit better staying out of the mid-pack if that's where he expected to wind up today. A few more seconds left, then we'll switch over to the cars lining up on the grid, and we'll go racing for 115 laps here today at Richmond Raceway. This is actually, I love the involvement that this track has really taken with sim racing. One of the few tracks that actually owns a sim racing team.
Yeah, Richmond has really embraced the esports aspect of racing. It's really cool to see the Richmond Raceway esports team out there with the NASCAR Coca-Cola series, and really cool to see tracks taking on this kind of involvement and really being an active part of the content that we have here.
I concur. Let's go through our starting order, though. Josh Conker will start on the pole with Elliott White starting in 2nd. Abner Acosta, good enough for 3rd today with Daniel Ferguson in 4th, and Holly only fast enough for 5th with his one-time lap. Richard Regan Jr., P6 for him, ahead of Adam Shane in 7th, and to his outside it's Mike Richter. Danny Cervantes starts 9th, and Thomas Sink will be P10.
And just outside of the top 10 is going to be Austin Hunter in 11th with Daniel Knight relegated to 12th after only getting one lap in. Then Brendan Chatley will be 13th, our points leader coming into the night. Dominic Beijing will be 14th over Brett Adams in 15th. Then Colton Lane will complete row number 8. Dalton Geyer and Charles Sumner will be row number 9, with Jim Westerfield and Doug Evans completing your top 20 starters.
Jose Medina put it in 21st with Nick Schwartz in 22nd. Then it's John LaBath behind them and Nick Hunter in 24th. Adam Zemke, he'll start P25, Stacy Hunter 26, and Patrick Cowgill in 27th. Blaine Adams is on the outside of that row. Brett Accord starts the next one in 29th. And then outside of row 15 will be Matthew Kulhanek. Last few are Mark Kalin, last one to put a time in, Doyle Lawrence, and Baron Hilton, as we mentioned a little bit earlier. We said we got a lot of onboards for you today. Well, let's start at the top with Austin Hunter in the 312, as he is going to be starting in the 11th position. And then after him, it is going to be Brendan Chatley, who starts in the number 59 from 13th. After that, you've got Bradley Holly as well. And Bradley, as we mentioned, put it in P5 today, so up towards the top. Then it is Brett Accord, who starts this race from 29th position, and that number 151. After that, we've got Brett Adams in the number 23. He was good enough for P15. This is he joins us with our onboards. We've also got Daniel Ferguson, well up there today, starting from 4th in the 676 for the Pure Sims racing team. Nick Hunter will be starting in that 109 from the 12th row in 24th, and he's even provided us some help to know when we're watching him. Thank you for that, Nick. And Patrick Cowgill, the last of them, in the number 31 out there today, the 62 rather. Starting in 31st. So, as the drivers are already on lap 2, we're getting ready to be released. Josh Conker in the 54 truck, waiting for the pace truck to release him. Let's see if they can handle the heat here today. It has gone down slightly at 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Hopefully that helps at least a little bit for some grip on the surface. As he waits patiently, the green flag is out. It is not a good jump at all for the 54 to his outside. Elliott White stays with him as they plunge down into the first corner. Down below him, though, Abner Acosta taking a little bit of a look, but he can't keep the overlap. They come onto the back stretch. Everybody flying down towards 3.
Yeah, relatively calm turns 1 and 2 here at Richmond Raceway, as looks like the field getting a little bit sorted out here as we get off in the early running of this race.
Bradley Holly side by side with Daniel Ferguson for that 4th spot. He's trying to make moves early, but he starts to fall back on the shallow side of the turn. So he's going to stay side by side with his 6.76, our highest battle currently in the field.
Yeah, and Holly, I think, has the better line right now with that inside positioning. I'd expect him to have the position carried over here by the time we get to the backstretch.
They come off the corner. He's got a nose ahead, watching from behind. That's Richard Regan Jr., but he's going to try and get himself involved as he sticks his nose underneath the 6.76. And Daniel Ferguson still trying to fight hard, but he's watching positions start to bleed away.
Yeah, it looked like Holly maybe even pushed him a little bit wide when he completed the pass. If you looked at how he went through the corner, he was about half a groove up off the bottom of the track from where he was normally running. So just disrupted the flow a little bit and was able to take the position.
And Danny finally gets himself into line. Very single file throughout much of the field. Our next fight that we've currently got is the 59 of Brennan Chatley, who just went by Austin Hunter. Brennan, our points leader right now in the Drivers' Championship, but only by 4.
And it didn't look like Brendan was super comfortable with the truck during practice and qualifying. He's a little bit further back than some of his championship cohorts, and looks like he has some work ahead of him today.
Yeah, considering Ferguson's still up in 6, even after losing a couple spots early on, and Chatley's climbing is only up to 13th. he's certainly got some work to do. We're watching Chatley's on board. Seems pretty happy though, chipper, and enjoying this early stage of the race.
That's definitely what you got to do. Is you got to push the points to the back of your mind there, and just relax and enjoy the ride.
See him sawing away a little bit out of the exit of turn 2. Thankfully, didn't smack that outside wall as many have done over the years. We're only starting lap 8 right now, and Josh Conker has not given up the lead since that start, even though it didn't look terribly fast compared to the 27. He has put him about a half second behind.
Yeah, so far a great run by Josh Conker in the early stages of this race. One driver that I do want to talk about running in third right now is Abner Acosta. I mentioned earlier, Joe, that this is going to be a really throttle-sensitive track. How you get off and get on the gas pedal is going to be a big deal. And Abner Acosta, we've mentioned a ton of times, is an experienced road racer. And I think that experience is going to help him with the throttle control here at Richmond. And I think that's going to be a big deal today.
A little bit behind them, we could catch a glance of the 184 having the 46 underneath him. Richard Regan Jr. tried to see if he could overtake on Bradley Holly, but nearly spun him around. Came close to making contact with his left rear quarter panel. He's a little farther back now, that black and blue 184, not letting him do that a second time.
Yeah, there's no love lost between these two. A lot of hard competition across the PRL divisions between these two drivers. And Richard Regan Jr. is not running for the championship in this division, so he's out here trophy hunting, and he's got no qualms about working his way to the lead, elbows out style.
He's riding very close behind the tailgate of the 184. Now, once again, he's going to duck underneath, see if he can get the line, and he is going to get the overlap that he wants. Tries not to drift up into the side of him, but it is oh so close. The better momentum goes to Holly. Still fighting back. Regan tries to stick with it. Once again, almost slides up into him.
Yeah, and he's doing this on a couple of the most challenging parts of this track. That exit off of turn 2, that backstretch really narrows up, it feels like, when you're driving on it. And you can see Bradley Holly there working, putting as little input into the wheel as possible to try to scrub off as little speed as he can. But you got to think he is grinding his teeth there, trying to keep that truck straight.
I mean, speaking of grinding your teeth, what a contrast we saw to Chatley, who's kind of smiling, look like he's very relaxed. Whereas, look at the focus on the eyes of our multi-time champion. And a little bit of a bobble there coming off the corner. He's hanging tough. They're staying wheel to wheel. And now as he drops back through 3 and 4, can we see Regan drift up? No, not quite. They're going to cross the line, though, with Regan still ahead of him.
Well, Regan's definitely keeping it fair, but he's not giving Bradley any more than he has to on that outside line.
Ooh, big slide, and now Holly prevails. Wow, talk about hanging tough. I thought for sure that eventually he was going to lose out on that position. As ahead of them, we also got to fight for second. White ahead of Acosta. Acosta down low, and I almost think White maybe gave that one up.
Well, it is still early. I mean, there's obviously pit stops that have to happen, so wouldn't surprise me at all if Elliott White there was taking it a little bit easier and deciding that he'd like to stick around and fight later on.
Glad we've been green since this race started thus far. Good to see drivers playing quite fair and very aggressive, though. Look how close they get off of turn 2, though. We watched this fight between Knight and Richter. Oh! And then coming in with a huge head of steam, Thomas Sink was not taking no for an answer. That was one of the craziest dives we've seen so far. Absolutely mugged the 65. Watch this. Made it look like he was standing still. And with that, Adam Shane fell back behind Sink and Bajin. Bajin going to get himself up into the top 10 as well. But this group still being led by Daniel Knight up in 7th with that number 17.
And Daniel Knight had some struggles in qualifying, Joe, and he's driving with a purpose today. Started back in 12th, already up to 7th, and looking to continue his march up the field.
Pretty good with it. Taking another glance at our leader, it was half a second before, but now look at this. He's got 1.2 seconds over Abner Acosta. Granted, we will have to come in for tires at some point. From what I understand, this track tends to chew them up a little bit, doesn't it, Chris?
Yeah, it's that good old southern asphalt that is not super tire friendly. And this track is getting a little bit of age on her too, so unfortunately that mixed with some hot temperatures is going to chunk up those tires pretty good.
That said, I mean, can you see Conquer maybe regretting this if we get a long green flag run? Will Acosta maybe start to run him down if he takes care of it more like this?
It wouldn't surprise me at all if this was a conscious decision on Abner's behalf to see that Josh is using up his stuff and to lay back and just wait for the race to come to him. He's in a great position running in second, and he can really manage the tires from this point. While Conquer does have a good amount of track up ahead of him, if the tire game comes full circle and we stay green for a while, it could really come back to bite the 54.
He's already approaching some traffic. Kuhanek is ahead of him in the 89. So we're going to have a conveyor belt of trucks pretty soon. There it goes, staying up to the high side. Nicely done by Matthew there, letting him through. And you always have to wonder when traffic becomes a factor, who will it hurt and who will it help?
Especially with this track, it all depends on when you get to the traffic. Looks like Richard Regan Jr. has recovered from his slide and is looking to possibly make a move on Holly here in the not too distant future.
And despite being passed early, Ferguson's been hanging on to the tail as well. So it's a trio effectively fighting for the 4th position. In front of them, Elliott White trying to overtake Kuhanek as well. But White seems to be checked up by this. He's finding himself being run down by the 184. And he's, almost going to get to the back of him. Has to slam on the brakes. Thankfully does not make contact.
Well, like I was saying, Joe, it all depends on when you catch the lap traffic as to how much it hurts you. And unfortunately, Elliott White caught that lap truck at possibly the worst part of the track to do that. Really broke his momentum.
What happened there? And more contact. That was Regan Jr. getting into the back of the 27. I could have sworn I saw Holly maybe have a little touch with him as well. Things starting to get slightly frantic. We might actually have a caution here if they keep battling this hard.
Yeah, Joe, I looked down at my scoring monitor for just 1 second, and all of a sudden everybody's beating each other up.
Drifting off the corner, giving just enough space, looking 3 wide, and down the middle goes the likes of Richard Regan, but it's not going to give him a spot. Instead, it works out for the car on the bottom side. Bradley Holly into 3rd. This is incredibly hard racing for only lap 28 of 115.
Not only that, but incredibly hard racing with drivers that aren't really known for being this aggressive this early in the race.
27 is not going to be able to hold on to it, as eventually Regan's going to be able to get by. So White down to 5th quite quickly. Ferguson's still watching. And then don't forget the 17 of Daniel Knight, who seems to have closed the gap. Ferguson sends it in deep and then elects to take the high side. Diamonds off the corner, looks for the shot. Now from on board, he might have the overlap as we jump off. Yeah, he has got it down into the first corner. I don't think he's got the job done yet, though.
Ooh, that was close. Yeah, he took a bit of a shallow entrance into turn 1, which seems to make a corner off a little bit harder, but he made it work. So I'm not sure if maybe the 27 is maybe struggling with some tires at this point or what, but I will say Mr. Ferguson there made it look pretty easy.
And as soon as his spotter gave him the clear, he was sliding up the banking. Meanwhile, Richard Regan Jr. got a little taste of that nose to the inside. The 676 can't make it stick. Tries to diamond it off once again. He seems to like that move, and it worked last time. he's going to try it again. Oh, he gets inside of him, tries not to run into his side. He is given barely a truck's width down at the bottom. Both of these drivers playing with fire.
And if that wasn't enough, Joe, I mean, we have all these drivers within, what, a few tenths of each other out on the track, and they've shown absolutely no hesitation as we head up to the front of the field. Another driver that is showing no hesitation is Abner Acosta has cut down that advantage. We talked at one point, it was about 1.5 seconds. He's now under a half second behind Josh Conker for that top spot.
Pay me now, pay me later. Unfortunately, Conker has got to pay the piper now. The 54 dropping off. That or Acosta picking it up and getting it down to 0.3 of a second. We're on board with the 5 as he comes out of turn 4 one more time and crosses the start-finish line. Last time it was a 23.870, whereas Conker's was a 23.875. It's only 5 1,000ths quicker, but certainly making himself known.
Yeah, those thousands will add up. And we see Abner, looks like he's closing the gap even more.
And we had a little bit of contact, I think, between Ferguson and Regan just a moment ago. Wonder if we can get a replay. Let's take a look at this. This is coming off of turn 2. And I think the 676 just kind of drifted up. Yeah, there you see him have to catch the truck. Let's watch it from on board as they exit that corner. Ooh, ooh. My goodness. He stays in P5. Behind them, that's Brett Accord getting lapped. It really is becoming the conveyor belt now. Hard to tell who is on that lead lap until we really focus on who is where. Trucks trying to get up high as we watch from Accord's position. Wow, the 17. Whoa, was that a hip check there?
I definitely don't think it was intentional, but this is not a very large track. You got to keep that in mind, and there is not a lot of room for lap trucks to get out of the way. It's just so much stuff in such a small space.
It almost looked like he brushed against the outside wall too. Accord is struggling, unfortunately. So Brett down in 32nd, already a lap down, and second to last on the field. Ooh, a lot of traffic here. My goodness, 3 trucks right in front of them. That's Adams, Lawrence, and LaBaff. So how is Conker and how is Acosta going to handle this? That's Stacy Hunter behind them, so that's not for position with that ride-in shotgun machine.
And keep in mind, these trucks in front of them, they are racing for position as well. So as much as they probably don't want to hold up the leader, they still have their race to run also.
And our leader's probably well aware of that. They've got to kind of be careful that they might not be paying close attention to what's happening with the top 2 as they get underneath Doyle Lawrence. Oh, but Lawrence has the much better exit. Ooh, what a compromise run down the backstretch, and Acosta knew it. Tried to look to the inside, but he couldn't get the overlap. Continuing underneath all of this lap traffic. With all of this going on, do you think it's worth coming into pits, or is it too risky with a yellow potentially trapping you a lap down?
The way these guys are racing, I would be nervous to pit early just because of the possibility of getting trapped a lap down.
So drivers just gritting their teeth and staying out for the time being. Still having to take a number of laps to try and get by these lap trucks. LaBaff now in the 911 up to the top of the 54. And Acosta getting closer and closer. In fact, took a little peek down to the inside of 3 that time. Still hasn't been able to make a successful pass, but the 5 is definitely trying, and now he's starting to apply more pressure.
This is definitely the time to do it. You have to think about it from the perspective of Acosta, or excuse me, from the perspective of Josh Conker. not only is he under threat from behind, but he also has to pick the best route around the lap traffic. So obviously this is not going to be very fun for Josh. Abner makes a move.
Oh, and I think Conker just brushed the wall on the entry into one. And that slowed him up a ton as they check up behind the 109. Let's take a look at the replay. I don't know if the 54 just got distracted or what. We might want to watch this one from above to get a good angle on this one. It's already way up high.
Yeah, he definitely brushed the wall. Looks like he may have even done it a couple times.
And that cost him the lead. Costa now up at the top. Bradley Hawley still about a second behind the pair of them. He's dealing with the same traffic that they had to struggle through just moments ago. 47 laps into this race. Still no cautions have flown. And with extreme heat on the track, it's still at 121 Fahrenheit. The tires have got to be begging for mercy.
Yeah, those tires are not happy right now. A lot of laps that have been ran on them, and the track is as hot as it's been all afternoon, 121 degrees. So this is definitely about tire melting out there.
Ferguson still on the back of Hawley for a podium position. He got passed by Regan earlier, but now has himself back ahead of him and trying to attack, and somebody ducked into the lane. Figure out who that was. That was Cool Panic, so that's one of our back markers. I guess he's got nothing to lose. Might as well try and do something radical and see if it turns your race around.
Yeah, I gotta say, Joe, this is pretty antithetical for a short track race. We're closing in on 50 laps, no cautions yet. And it's not for lack of effort either. These guys have been racing each other really hard. It's not like they've all just been in a parade.
Honestly, color me impressed. This has been a fantastic display of skill from everyone involved. A real testament to what you've got in store in PRL's various leagues, especially on the oval side. Costa, man, he really was saving his stuff. He's up to 1.1 seconds ahead of Conker at this point. I don't think that's strictly down to the lap traffic that they've been weaving through. I think Acosta has managed that rubber just way better than the 54.
Definitely, and I thought all week coming into this race that Abner was going to be the one to watch. I feel like this track really suits his driving style more so than some of the other top contenders, and this may be where that winless streak gets snapped.
Well, that'll be an exciting day for him if he can finally reach the top step of the podium again on the oval side here in the Precision Racing League. As he puts another truck a lap down. Another battle that we haven't checked in on that's quite close is 8th position. That's the 48 of Thomas Sink trying to shake Adam Shane. And they're coming upon some more lap traffic. In fact, I think, is that Daniel Knight involved? Yes, that is. The 17 right in front of him.
Yeah, Daniel Knight made that early March, started 12th, got all the way up to 7th, but it's really stalled out. And there's almost a second now between 6th place Elliott White and himself, and the pressure is definitely beginning to creep up from behind him.
He's going to get underneath Doyle Lawrence, try to create a buffer, but Lawrence is going to stay out of the way of those behind him as Thomas Sink. Oh, can't quite drift up as much as he wanted to. Compromised exit for the 48. And a compromised entry down into turn 3 as well. That also allows Adam Shane to stick with it. Shane's got a lot of damage on the rear of that truck, though. That 65 is a severely dented tailgate.
Obviously, he wasn't going fast enough for somebody that was running behind him.
So as we now head into the third and fourth corners once again, who is thinking time to pit? Who is thinking there's no way in hell I'm coming down that lane early? Well, Brennan Chatley. Now that's a driver we're used to playing risky maneuvers for strategy calls. And the 59 rather, is already down looking for tires. See if he hits his stall nicely. Yes, he's on his marks.
As we mentioned, Brendan, never one that's shy about running a contrary strategy to everybody else. It's worked out for him so far this season, Joe. He comes into this race the points leader, maybe not having the day he wanted, but gets away with a fairly clean stop there. Maybe he can turn his luck around in this one.
Let's check back in on that battle for third. Holly and Ferguson still split by about 2 to 3 tenths of a second. It's been this way for quite some time. I think here we go. Can watch both of them. And these, this is great cameras because so far from what we've seen tonight, these have been two of the most intense looking drivers when we check in on their onboards.
You know what's funny though, Joe? If you take away the steering wheels, they'd probably just look like two guys that are waiting at the DMV.
That's not a guy I would want to talk to at the DMV, that's for sure. If they had that sort of glare on their faces.
I don't know if I've ever wanted to talk to somebody at the DMV, if we're being honest.
Touche. Oh, fair point. Nick Hunter and Josh. Whoa, they caught up to our top two. Is that right? That's no. Nick Hunter's a lap down. Excuse me. But Josh Conker is right in front of them. So they've gained on the 54. This definitely seems to be... Oh, and the 54's pitting. There goes Conker. He was very close to hitting those barrels on the way in, though. Let's watch from his perspective.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be what you would refer to as a pucker moment. As he gets there, gets down in the flat part of the track pretty late, has to slam on the brakes, and even had to counter steer into it a little bit. So those barrels were definitely pretty big in his eyes there for a moment.
Well, he didn't wreck it, he didn't spin it, and doesn't look like he sped on pit lane because it doesn't seem to be getting any sort of penalty. 4 tires, and that's it. He's on his way. The 54 truck returns at about 16th place, a lap down. Looks like Austin Hunter deciding it's time in the 312. Let's watch and see if he makes any sort of adjustments. Driver's taking the chance to get a little bit of their own personal biofuel, some water. Look at that, stretching the arm out. You have to be turning quite a bit around this track, I suppose.
Yeah, 115 laps, that's what, 230 turns, roughly?
Absolutely, and you're still turning on the front stretch, too, don't forget. Still waiting on Bradley Holly to pit. Ooh, he's having to really weave around other trucks at this point. Ferg thinks about it. No, Ferg's going to pit. There goes Daniel Ferguson. 676 is in. He's going to be followed by Richard Regan Jr. Here's two of our very front runners. Where will they come out in comparison to Josh Conker? Last flying lap from Conker, 22.9. He had a 22.6 in there as well. Compare that to the 24s that we saw from Ferguson. There's Conker as he comes out of turn 4. So he's been riding much quicker. He's going to have an advantage, but he'll also have older tires as it gets further on in this run.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how this undercut works out.
Oh, and side-by-side exit between Ferguson and Regan. Regan gets him, though.
Yeah, Regan really got a launch out of pit road once he was beyond the timing line.
Wow. So Conker easily passed them. In fact, holy cow, Conker, it looks like he's a good 7 or 8 seconds up the road. He made a huge difference.
Yeah, that is a huge gap.
68 laps in now. Acosta still has not pit. And I believe, yeah, they are well past the halfway point, so they can definitely get to the end from here if we stay green. He's in a whole bunch of traffic. These are all trucks that have taken fresh tires that are getting their laps back. Acosta's giving away lots of time, but again, he's going to have the freshest tires of anybody later on in the race.
Yeah, he's looking at roughly actually more than 2 seconds slower than his best lap. Looks like Bradley Holly and Acosta now coming down pit road.
Holly coming in a lap earlier. Cervantes is still out. Kalen is still out, and those are our last two. Let's see if Cervantes is going to come in this time as we watch Holly get his service. No, Danny's going to stay out. I think he's banking on some sort of caution. So is Kalen. Here's Acosta. Finds his stall. Starts on service. Conqueror's going to flash by. Conqueror's going to be like half a lap ahead, I think, here.
It's a pretty powerful undercut here. I mean, it was about a 2-second difference for those with tires and without.
The only saving grace I could see for those that are waiting to pit still is they're hoping for a caution and have saved a set for later in the race compared to the others who have now used up one of their 4 total that they're allowed to use. This is our leader, Cervantes. Here he comes in. Kalen, though, does not. The 62 decides to keep chugging.
Boy, this could be a totally different race if we had a caution right now.
Let's see, we've got 18th on back, a lap down right now. Last run on the lead lap is Blaine Adams. And he's actually one of ours that has not hit yet. We still are missing himself and Patrick Cowgill, along with Kalen, who we mentioned. Certainly not running very competitive lap times right now, but they are playing an alternate strategy to see what that can help. Remember our championship leader, we mentioned he was coming in to try a bit of an off-strategy move. Brendan Shatley in the 59. Well, it jumped him up to 7th, actually.
And see, those are the types of finishes that win you a championship. When you take the bad days and you turn them into top 10s, that is definitely making the most of the opportunity.
Now, Abner Acosta is chasing, and Acosta, remember, was ahead of him before those pit stops. He's got, 14-lap fresher tires, and this is where we're going to see the difference. Just pulls out of the corner much better and even brakes much better down into 3. Shatley is going to have to let him go as behind him. The 17 and the 59, excuse me, the 184 rather. That's for position. That's going to give Holly 9th place briefly. And yes, he is through. And now he's also past Shatley. Kalen is still out there running, by the way. In fact, I think he's finally going to lose the lead because Josh Conqueror, who effectively will re-inherit it in a moment, has come out the best of the pit stops, it seems, at least for the time being. Richard Regan Jr. is about 2 seconds back from him. That green, the 2 shades of green in the number 62, that is Kalen. And that is Conqueror directly behind him in the red, white, and black 54. Chucks it in, and there's the lead with ease.
Well, Joe, in case you were curious, you can run about 95 laps on fuel. So I don't know if Mark Kalen's going to wait that long, but definitely stretching things out here for the 62.
So he can go for about 15 more laps or thereabouts, it looks like, before he's absolutely got to come in. See what his race looks like from there. He's still running in 2nd. Regan Jr. closing in behind him. So we take a look at Evans and Lane side by side down into turn 1. Evans going to take the inside line. Lane tries to undercut. Switch back, and it's unfortunately not going to work out. Momentum halted. He settles for 12th.
I gotta say that 41 truck of Doug Evans has to be one of the sharpest looking trucks we have out there.
Is that a reference to the mullet or just the color scheme?
I just like the color scheme.
Well, I have to enjoy the sponsor, the Miracle Flow that he's got on there. Let's see if he can keep that party up in the front, because right now he is in 11th, so he's towards the top third of the field, and he has taken his pit stop. He's on about 18 lap old tires currently. You can see our winners and losers right now. Kalen, who started well back, he began this race in the 31st position. I think he was the last one to qualify. Is just trying to throw the dice here and see if it gives him anything. Unfortunately, it's not looking like it's going to work out in his favor as things sit now, but we keep mentioning it. A caution will change that complexion completely. Looking at Shane ahead of Sink. He was the one chasing before between these two, and the damage not hurting him too much. A short track typically not needing that much in the way of a smooth aerodynamic bodywork.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Short track and the aero doesn't mean nearly as much.
Across the line yet again. We still have those 18 trucks on the lead lap, and it's Jim Westerfield now, the last of those. Plenty of them a lap down, and some even already 2 laps down. Kalen is feeling it, my goodness. What was a few trucks here and there just trickling by is now becoming a flood as the gates are open. Ooh, whoa, he gets a much better exit, though, than the 911, but that's not for position. That's a lap down truck that actually was getting a lap back from him. Off the corner, Kalen still refusing to pit.
I mean, Kalen's almost a second slower than all the trucks around him at this point.
We were watching Holly and White fight earlier on in this race. This is for 4th position. And we have somebody into the wall. Stacy Hunter there in the 71 just smacking the wall in front of them. Thankfully did not wreck. So often we'll see... Oh, it's Nick Hunter, actually.
Yeah, we caught it just out of the corner of our camera there as we were watching the battle between Holly and Knight. You can see, yeah, he just a little bit of a
fade
slapper there.
I almost thought, did it start to go on him? I thought maybe he just kind of lost concentration and drifted up to the wall. So we are on board now with Nick Hunter. Oh, I think you're right. He drifted up too high that time, so it must be that the tires are starting to go, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is just probably one of the least fun parts of this track. You can see you have this big sweeping front stretch, but it really narrows up, and it's really a tight exit off of turn 2, and it is not hard to get pushed up into the wall there.
A guy wearing a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle shirt, I'm sure he's looking for a little bit more fun than that. As we're coming up to the lap 90 marker, and still Mark Kalen has not come in. In fact, he just went by the pit entry. Conker, who dropped back in the middle of that first stint, has been making a good job of things, but it looks like Richard Regan on his 4-lap fresher tires is starting to close in.
And not too far back is Abner Acosta lurking in that 3rd spot, and that gap is closing pretty quick as well.
Down the back stretch, 0.3 of a second. Remember, it was somewhere in the realm of 2 seconds after the pit stops Regan was trying to make up. So it's taken a bit, but he has closed it down. And Patrick Cowgill has thrown in the towel. We just heard him calling on the radio that he's pitting.
Yeah, he's one of those drivers that's already a lap down, so making a call for tires here early in the second run.
Kalen still stays out. Lap 93 starting for him. Here's Cowgill. Doing a little bit of that service. And exiting out No dramas there. It was a little bit of a slow stop at almost 16 seconds. Usually we see 12 to 14. Watch as he tries to blend into traffic, try not to spin up the tires. Not a lot of space here. It's a cramped track at Richmond.
Yeah, especially trying to stay down on that apron that is pretty much just as wide as the truck.
Ooh, Regan Jr.'s cut it down to 1/10 of a second now on Conquer. Our lead might change hands once again tonight. Josh Conquer seems to be a little better early on in these runs, and then the truck starts to go away from him. Can he withstand the pressure from Richard Regan Jr.? We are still without a caution after 96 laps out here, 95 laps rather.
I feel like at this point, Mark Kalen's got to be running on fumes.
Yeah, he's gone around another time here. He must have been saving fuel from the start for him to be able to get to lap 96. You said lap 93, right? Was the max under green?
95 was the max that I've seen under green conditions this week.
Interesting. And nope, he's going to stay out again. So this is going to tick off lap 97. He's got a very light right foot in that 62 truck. Ooh, things now, I believe, getting side by side between Conquer and Regan, maybe. In fact, oh, are we going to see 4 wide, 3 wide for a brief moment, splitting the 57. He gets down underneath him. Regan could take this one away if he boxes him in behind the 35. As they fly down into turn 3. Which way is Jim Westerfield going to choose to go? He stays up high, and this will give the chance to Richard Regan Jr. to deny an opportunity for Conquer to have any way to go, and indeed, into turn 1, the 54 slots back into line, and Richard Regan Jr. is our new leader.
A masterful move by Regan there to use the 35 as a pick. Trap the 54 behind him, and that left the door open for Regan to take the lead.
I believe this brings us to lap 100 now. 15 laps to go, and still we have not seen Mark Kalen pit. Is it possible to no-stop this thing?
He'd have to be running some of those extra long fuel lines.
We saw it last night at Long Beach in the sports car series. Couple drivers managed to go the entire race without having to stop for fuel, just managing it the whole way. We're at another track that is not nearly as thirsty as places like Daytona and Talladega. Kalen, so far, looking good. He's made no peep about coming down pit lane.
Somebody better call Smokey Unick. I think there's some shenanigans going on.
Had a little bit of a bobble off of 2 there that we did catch. And now he goes. Now he is finally in. That was 101 complete laps on a single tank of fuel. Unfortunately, everybody else is going to do a single stop as well, so I don't think Mark's really going to gain a whole lot other than a sense of pride here. And it was a valiant effort regardless. Did he not take tires yet?
I thought it looked like he went up.
Yeah, I think he took right sides. I don't think he took left sides though. Yeah, it was just right sides only as we once again glance at our leaders. Conquer just doesn't seem to have anything for Regan. Acosta is also approaching, don't forget. Remember, we already saw Abner figure out how to overtake Conquer towards the end of a stint earlier on in this race. As we go 3 wide. That's Kalen on the bottom, Regan in the middle, and up to his high side, Cervantes.
These are all 3 drivers that have led this race at one point on totally different strategies, all racing each other here.
3 wide continues, and now it involves the likes of Cowgill. I don't think he's on the same lap as them. No, he's not. 10 laps to go, and I'm looking up and down my time and scoring, and I'm used to seeing a lot of drivers with the same number of laps on their tires, and I don't think I see a single driver with the same pit stops of laps as any other. Everybody just kind of took their own strategy. We're watching from Conquer right now, our second place runner. He's kept it within Regan. He's still 0.3 behind him, actually.
Yeah, but that 5 truck of Acosta has gotten within a second of your top 2. So he is definitely closing in there in 3rd spot. Also, Joe, we talked about the fuel strategy that Mark Kalin was running. How about this? If the race ends right now, he is still up 9 spots on where he started. So maybe not as spectacular of a run as he would like, but you can't say that the strategy failed completely.
Absolutely. I think there is someone else who's trying that strategy. Blaine Adams, I see, has not taken a pit stop yet. As we got side-by-side fight. This is Elliott with Daniel Knight. And looks like Knight's going to take 5th place away from him. Elliott White not having the race he was looking forward to. He started on the front row. That puts him down to 6th there. Certainly not the result that we saw from him back at iRacing Super Speedway.
You know, strangely enough, too, Elliott sounded like one of the drivers that was slightly more optimistic about Richmond.
Interesting. Blaine Adams did finally come in, the longest of anybody at 106 laps that he managed to cycle around this place in Virginia. Watching from Chatley, trying to run away from Richter. And then up at the front, Conquer. Did he make a mistake, or did traffic hold him up? Because what was 0.2 of a second to Regan is now stretched to 0.6, and Acosta is 0.2 behind. In fact, there he is right there filling up our screens. We hop on board. He's going to look down low as they all go underneath traffic. He backs out of it, not confident. Colton Lane up high, denying the chance. Oh, a 3 wide coming off the corner as well. The 109 into the wall.
Well, Acosta able to close in, but not able to make a move yet, Joe.
They come down into turn 1 once again. Oh, and just finding space. A little bump there from Acosta as Colton Lane gets into his tailgate. Now they're able to continue on. And we have a caution, and that will actually end the race. Our first one is also our last. That's Dalton Geyer in the 36. And now this was a pass attempt from the 911, I think. No, this wasn't even for position. What a bizarre race this was. Anticlimactic, to say the least. Regan's probably not too upset about it. And there you can see the contact that sent him around. Actually, I take that back. We do have 1 green-white checkers, don't we? So we actually will try and restart this thing. Yeah, because we are still on 3 to go. So we're going to go to our first and I believe only green-white checker. And this changes things tremendously. So who is on freshest tires, and will that make enough of a difference? Oh, and we got some drivers that are electing to pit. Elliott White, Thomas Sink, Doug Evans, Brennan Chatley, Mike Richter. Fascinating.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the move that I would make at this point, but...
Well,
gotta try something, I guess.
Okay, I understand what's going on here. Our first driver a lap down is Cervantes. He's 13th. Those drivers that pitted were among the last ones on the lead lap. They literally have nothing to lose here.
That's a fair point. I didn't realize we had so many drivers that were 1 lap down, but yeah, this could definitely change things up. And you look, let's see, Regan's got 50 laps on his tires. Conquer has 54. And even more drivers are heading down pit road, Joe. We could be in for a big reshuffling of the deck here in the ending stages of this race.
That's assuming they don't go back under caution immediately with all the craziness. Those who are pitting now are the ones that are a lap down now that the pit lane is opened up for them. So that's why we're seeing all of those drivers come in for fresh rubber. So here's the ones that are vulnerable. It is Regan Jr., Conker, Acosta, Holly, Knight, and Shane.
So we went 112 laps without a caution.
And the caution, as we kept saying, changed everything completely, as was expected, but not in the way that we expected. And let's see, are we going to get double file here? Or it looks like we still got the lights on the pace truck. They're trying to get them all sorted out. 29 trucks still running. We lost Baron Hilton, Brett Accord, and Doyle Lawrence, which I'm not sure how, because we didn't really have any incidents except that last one that we witnessed.
I believe it sounded like Accord was having some connection issues. I think that might have been his issue tonight. I'm not sure on the other two.
Yeah, that makes sense. I hadn't even taken into account that maybe drivers could have had hardware or internet problems as the lights go out. Now, for those not familiar with these green-white checkers, if the drivers can keep it green until the white flag, there will be no more cautions. It will be a race to the finish no matter who wrecks how. But if they have a caution, that will end the race. The positions will be frozen at that time that the yellow is thrown, and the race will be over. So Richard Regan Jr., who is going to start on the pole, is going to try and fly like a bat out of hell here and get around to that white flag as soon as he can. Here is one of our multi-time champions, Holly, giving chase as we get the green flag. Fly down into turn one. Regan's looking good. We've got a lot of drivers on fresh tires. The first of those is Elliott White. As they come down the backstretch, so far so good. Battle for third between Acosta and Holly. Holly to the high side, Acosta to the low side. They're going to go three wide. Here comes White in the 27, flying through. Down into turn one, once again, three wide, and he's got the grip. Can he take this win? He's got the speed, but he's falling back from Richard Regan Jr. He's still got to pass the 54. More three wide. We are going to finish under green here as we come to the line, and it's going to be Richard Regan Jr. who survives the onslaught. Second goes to Acosta, or Conker rather. Acosta gets third. White only climbed his way to fourth. It was a good try, though.
Yeah, White may have finished fourth, but he was every bit of three wide for that final podium spot as they came to the line, Joe.
Holy cow. Let's watch it one more time. Incredible stuff at the finish. If he hadn't have had to mess around with that three wide too, I think maybe he could have had a shot at things. Man, he gave a big shove to Josh Conker there at the end. And then banging doors as well with Acosta on top of it. As we come back live, we are going to watch our drivers celebrate as Richard Regan burns it down. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so don't go away. Welcome back to Richmond Raceway. Round 4 in the PRL NASCAR Truck Series saw Richard Regan win, but out of those 4 races, he's only attended 2, and he's won both that he's come and tried racing. Josh Conker was behind him by only 6/10 as he fought across the line next to Abner Acosta, who was 3rd, and Elliott White on fresh tires, who wound up 4th. Thomas Sink was P5, and Bradley Holly 6th today. How about Doug Evans? Started 20th, wound up 7th. Mike Richter was P8, with Daniel Knight in 9th, and Brendan Chatley getting himself up into 10th.
Our last 2 trucks on the lead lap, Adam Shane in 11th and Colton Lane in 12th. Then a slew of lap down trucks, Charles Sumner, Danny Cervantes, Daniel Ferguson, Mark Kalin, Adam Zemke, Austin Hunter, Dominic Beijing, and Jim Westerfield completing the top 20.
21st went to Jose Medina, and then we get to trucks 2 laps down. Patrick Cowgill in 22nd, Brett Adams in 23rd, and John LaBaff in 24th. Geyer finishes in the quarter century mark with Stacy Hunter in 26. Nick Hunter not having the best of days, 27th, 3 laps down there in that 109. Blaine Adams, 28th. Kulhanek, 29th, and then from there it's DNFs with Hilton, Accord, and Lawrence. So as we bring on our winner, Richard Regan Jr. Richard, 2 races you've shown up to, 2 races you've won. That's a good record, but unfortunately, you've got 2 zeros on the board.
Yeah, I can't always run Wednesday nights because of work. So I just show up when I can and like to have fun.
Well, it looked like fun from this perspective. And as the race kept going under green and going and going and going, what was going through your mind? And did you think it would finish completely under green without that caution?
Well, that first run before the pit stops was definitely not fun for me. I didn't think I was going to be able to run this race tonight. Like, I got home like literally 20 minutes before the race started, so I didn't really get practice this week because I've been working on the Cup car for Sunday night. So basically, that entire first run was me learning what the truck does on the long run and on old tires. And I knew the only way I was going to have a shot is if I did a long pit, and I didn't expect Josh to pit as soon as he did. And I had a really good pit stop, and I learned a lot on that later part of that first run on what to do with the line on the old tires. And the second run was definitely wicked fun because, you just got to put your head down and dig and try to catch that gap and work around the lap cars. And the lap cars were very difficult tonight, which, I don't blame them. Everyone's racing for their spot. So, it was nice to see all that competitiveness out there. And I did think the race was going to finish on the green. I'm kind of disappointed it didn't. It would have been really nice to have a green to checkers racing in the truck series again. We were close, but 2 laps shy.
Yeah, well, not just besides the pride of being able to run it completely green. I also have to imagine seeing that yellow come out and then seeing a whole bunch of trucks duck into pit lane probably caused a little bit of a groan in that cockpit.
Yeah, I've basically almost lost every way I can in PRL with cautions coming out with 2 to go. So I've learned that over time, it's better to stay out and be the leader on the old tires because you can kind of make your bed easier than it would be if you pit and you start 7th and you got to be really aggressive and you got to hope a caution doesn't come out the first lap or the first corner. So yeah, and I had my teammates behind me too, so they were kind of playing blocker. So thank you to them. But yeah, I knew I was just in a better spot to stay out.
Well, what a call it was. Congratulations on the victory. Who helped bring the 46 to victory lane?
Private Label, Team Hype, Ethica, Chevrolet, Tommy Milner, Ty Stover, James O'Brien, Brandon Walter, Josh Conker, everybody that helps put in practice in the sets over on the Cup car. And we practice a lot for the truck. Oculus Glasses, Neonism Paints, Susan G. Coleman, Multiple Sclerosis Society. Everyone that watches and you guys for broadcasting.
Well, thank you very much. That was our winner, Richard Regan Jr. In the meantime, Chris has caught up with second place, Josh Conker.
Well, Josh, a pretty solid run for you today. Looked like you guys were having a lot of fun out there. A pretty long green flag run. Tell us about your race.
Yeah, it was a good race. Definitely, it was definitely a tough race physically and mentally. With the big long green flag runs there, they were definitely not expected. I kind of figured we were gonna have a little green flag run, about 20, 30 laps, and kind of get some quick cautions. But yeah, all in all, it was a good race. We had really good pace in the truck tonight, and brought it home P2.
Now, did you think there was anything you could do differently that maybe would have secured victory for you today?
It's really tough with the truck and the tire model. I've been learning to try and save the right front better, and you could see we really had the short run pace tonight. It was just missing a little bit in that right front tire wear for the long run. So definitely gonna look into learning how to save my right front better, so that way when we come down to a long green flag run like that, we can continue our good pace.
Now, I believe next race we are headed to Kansas. What are your thoughts on that track?
Been a little while since I've been to Kansas. It's not one of my more favorite tracks. It's definitely a good track, interesting. It'll definitely provide a good race. Hopefully we can come back out with another 1, 2, 3 for the team like we did tonight. But yeah, definitely looking forward to getting there and getting prepared.
All right, Josh, anybody you'd like to thank to help make today possible for you?
Yeah, as usual, I'd like to thank everybody at Private Label Team Hype, our sponsors, Private Label Ethica, Ty Stover, Tommy Milner, for bringing me on, giving me the opportunity to run for the guys. And I'd like to thank my teammates, Abner and Rich, they provided a really good race. It was really tough to compete with them tonight, so they pushed me, so I'd like to thank them. I'd like to thank James for coming in and joining us and keeping us cool with his cool, calm head. So
All right, thanks for joining us today, Josh.
yeah, no worries. Thanks for having us.
All right, back to you, Joe.
That takes us to our third place finisher, Abner Acosta, who's joined me here. And Abner had to fight hard there at the end. Obviously, a lot of trucks behind you with some fresh rubber on. Tell us about that experience. What's it like knowing that they've got that mighty advantage?
Good evening, guys. Yeah, I actually didn't think they would catch us because I think the people that pitted were like seventh and back or eighth and back. So I honestly got caught off guard when all of a sudden I was three wide and I saw Elliott on the inside, and I think I was three wide for like the last lap or so. So I was in the middle, so I was just sitting there, Surprised I actually got the third at the end. I guess they got loose or something in the front. But yeah, glad I got third.
Well, it was a track that saw scorching temperatures. It's known for chewing up tires, and you wound up going for green flag racing for 112 laps. Did any of your experience on the road help you in your tire management here today? Because you certainly look good, especially in that first stint.
Um, I don't think so. I think ever since I moved to, started doing ovals, I learned fast that you need to take care of your tires. So everything I learned about tire management, I learned it once I moved to oval. And I think I'm pretty good at that. I was leading like the first half of the race. I obviously need to fix, I guess, my pit strategies. So I'm a little disappointed that I didn't win. I thought I had a really fast truck, but just I guess I didn't put into account traffic and all that. It was very difficult to pass for sure.
After your consistency last season, I have to admit, I'm a little surprised to find out that this is your first top five of this season. Do you think you can keep that up for the remainder? Maybe get yourself a little bit closer to the top?
That's what I'm shooting for. Yeah, I had a really bad two races, the dirt, Bristol dirt and the super speedway. And then I had a good car last week, but I just fell off at the end. But yeah, I'm also surprised that I haven't gotten more top fives. Planning to change that for the next races.
Well, we'll keep an eye out for you, and congratulations on a podium today.
Thank you guys. Have a good night.
That was Abner Acosta taking third in his number 5. As we wrap things up, we also want to give a big thank you to the sponsors of the series. Of course, starting with Simulation Motorsports Affinity. If you want to get involved in the world of sim racing, check them out at SIMMSA.net. And of course, NinjaTrader, who can be found at NinjaTrader.com, where you can get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. And finally, Butt Kicker products can be found at thebuttkicker.com. Butt Kicker, feel what you've been missing. Thanks goes out to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Chris, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media through the outlets listed at the bottom of the screen. And if you'd like to support the channel, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. Link is in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC, because the next race at Kansas will be Wednesday, April 28th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.